The dropship TAS Harpy groaned as it pierced through the turbulent atmosphere of Shirava. 9. A scorched, broken world that had once shone as a jewel of the Shiravani star empire. Now it was just another ghost planet, another war-wrecked monument to a fallen civilization. Corporal Jason Rourke checked the seals on his helmet, then tapped the side to engage the visor's infrared overlay. The scanner painted the world in muted oranges and blues, tagging distant hotspots where radiation still lingered. He muttered under his breath, "Hell of a vacation spot." Sergeant Tran barked in his ear. "Cut the chatter, Rourke. Eyes sharp. We're not the first to sniff around." Jason didn't argue. The distress signal that had drawn their recon team here had been looping for over 20 years, until last week, when it suddenly changed. No one knew why. The techs back on the Peregrine thought it was a glitch. Jason, ever the survivalist, figured someone had finally moved the rubble. The Harpy touched down on what remained of a palace courtyard, cracked marble tiles half swallowed by ash and vines. Blackened statues of long-dead Shiravani emperors watched from collapsed pillars, their once proud stances now mocking. "Fan out! Standard sweep!" Tran ordered. "Rourke, you got North Quadrant." Jason moved through the ruins, his boots crunching over broken glass and bone. The Shiravani had once been galactic royalty, ethereal, genetically sculpted beings with minds tuned to psychic frequencies and symbiotic tech woven into their biology. Now, there was only silence and dust. He found her under the remains of a collapsed stairwell. At first, he thought she was a corpse, just another victim among the ruins. But then her chest moved, shallow, rapid. She lay curled around something, someone. A second smaller form, long dead. Her sibling? He didn't ask. Her eyes opened as he approached, large, luminous, and silver blue. Her skin shimmered faintly with opalescent scales, dulled by dirt and malnutrition. She hissed weakly, then collapsed again. Jason crouched and removed his helmet, letting her see his face. He slowly reached into his vest pouch and pulled out the last of his emergency ration chocolate, a heat-sealed square of synthetic cocoa, about as luxurious as it got in the field. "Hey, kid," he said softly, "this stuff saved me from freezing to death on Argo 7. Saved me from boredom during blockade duty. Might as well save someone else." She didn't understand the words, but when he unwrapped the bar and held it out, her eyes locked onto it like a starving animal. Jason broke a piece and offered it. Hesitantly, she took it, sniffed, then devoured it. Her hands trembled. She cried without sound. Jason clicked his comm. "Tran, I've got a survivor. Young female. Malnourished. She's Shiravani, but she's not hostile." There was a pause. "Copy that. Retrieval in 5. Prepare for exfil." That's when the scavenger drones arrived. They came in a swarm. Spindly, spidery machines left over from the Empire's civil collapse, reprogrammed by looters or corrupted AI fragments. Half intelligent and fully lethal. Their eyes glowed a sickly green as they surged over the ruined walls, targeting movement. "Contact North Quadrant!" Jason yelled, drawing his sidearm and positioning himself in front of the girl. Tran's voice cut through the noise. "Hold position. Back up en route." Jason didn't wait. He scooped the girl into his arms, lighter than she should have been, and ran, weaving between cover as plasma bolts hissed around him. He fired back in short, deliberate bursts, aiming for sensor nodes. His Terran reflexes, unpredictable, frantic by Shiravani standards, threw the drones off just long enough for the Harpy's guns to chew through the rest. When the dust settled, Jason dropped to one knee, panting, the girl still clutched in his arms. She looked up at him with wide, terrified eyes, but didn't flinch away. Tran approached, scanning the girl. "You're supposed to report survivors, not collect them. She's not just a survivor. She was hiding in the palace. That's not random." Tran frowned. "Not our jurisdiction. Command's clear, observe and report. We don't get involved with alien nobility." Jason met her eyes. "She wasn't nobility when I found her. She was a kid dying under a rock." Tran hesitated, then sighed. "Fine. Bring her aboard. But she's your responsibility now." Back on the Peregrine, Jason watched as Dr. Elijah Voss, the ship's Cultural liaison, examined the girl. She refused to leave Jason's side, clinging to him like a shadow. She wouldn't speak, but responded to tone and gesture. She's Shiravani, no doubt, Voss said. But what's unusual is her gestures. She bowed with 3 fingers to her heart. That's an old imperial sign of deference, used only for monarchs or gods. Jason blinked. You're saying she's royalty? I'm saying she thinks she is, Voss corrected. But it's possible. The Shiravani nobility were bred to survive disasters. They had access to hidden sanctuaries. The old AI guardians might have protected her. Jason looked at her, dirty, fragile, sitting on the medical table with wide eyes and sticky chocolate on her lips. She doesn't look like royalty, he said. Neither do you, Voss replied with a smirk. But I've seen you rip a combat drone in half with a crowbar. Jason shrugged. Fair. He knelt beside her. Do you have a name? She tilted her head. Name, he repeated, tapping his chest. Jason. Then he pointed at her. A moment passed. Then, in a whisper like wind over glass, she replied, Syl. Jason smiled. Syl, all right. Let's keep you alive. That night, the ship's lights dimmed to night cycle. Jason sat by Syl's makeshift quarters, an empty storeroom converted with blankets and soft lights. She lay curled in a corner, half asleep, one hand clutching the chocolate wrapper like a treasure. Jason stared through the observation window at the ruined planet below. He didn't know what Syl represented, didn't know what kind of galactic mess he might have stepped into. But he knew this. In the ashes of a lost civilization, one child had survived. Alone, starving, afraid, and she had eaten his last chocolate. He grinned to himself. Figures. Save the galaxy, lose your snack. Behind him, Syl stirred. He turned and saw her watching him again, eyes unreadable, ancient for someone so young. For a moment, something passed between them. Not words, not culture, just understanding. Maybe that's all it took. The TAS Peregrine cut through the void of space like a blade through black silk. Its crew, 150 strong, was trained for reconnaissance, survival, and improvisation. Babysitting royalty wasn't in the manual. Corporal Jason Rourke stood just outside Medical Bay 2, arms crossed, watching through the reinforced glass as Syl sat cross-legged on a diagnostic table. She was cleaner now, her silver-blue skin faintly glowing in the sterile lights, dressed in an oversized Terran Navy hoodie with the sleeves rolled up past her elbows. The girl clutched the empty chocolate wrapper like a holy relic. Dr. Elijah Voss murmured softly to her in trade cant, the galaxy's most common diplomatic tongue. Syl didn't respond. Not with words, anyway. Instead, she tilted her head slightly and gave a flick of her fingers across her collarbone, a gesture of veiled inquiry. Jason had seen that same motion in old video feeds of Shiravani court rituals. He wasn't the only one watching. Rourke, came the familiar sharp voice of Lieutenant Sarah Tran as she strode up beside him, her uniform crisp even in artificial gravity. You realize what you've done? Jason didn't move. Saved a kid. You brought a potential royal heir onto a Terran vessel without clearance. Do you have any idea what kind of political firestorm this could cause? She was starving in a pile of rubble. That pile of rubble was once the capital of the Shiravani Star Empire. The empire might be dead, but its enemies aren't. If she's who Voss thinks she is, the Krask Syndicate will come running the second they smell her blood. Jason looked at her. Then I'd rather she be on our ship than in a cage or a grave. Tran sighed. Command's going to want answers. Fast. An hour later, a secure holocall linked the Peregrine to Rear Admiral Tarsai, a hard-eyed woman stationed aboard the Terran fleet carrier Resolute. Jason stood in the corner while Tran delivered the report. Syl sat beside Jason, fidgeting with a stress cube he'd given her. She liked puzzles, he'd learned. She figured out the cube in less than 2 minutes. Corporal Rourke, Tarsai said, voice clipped. Did you confirm the subject's identity before bringing her aboard? Jason stepped forward. No, ma'am. She was starving. We didn't have time for protocol. And now you've possibly endangered this vessel and everyone on it. With respect, Admiral, Jason said calmly, we saved her. That counts for something. Tarsai looked off-screen for a moment, listening to someone, then returned her gaze to Jason. If this girl is truly Silran Shiverath, surviving heir of the Shiravani High Line, then she may have dormant Imperial Authority protocols embedded in her genetics. If activated, Those could override defensive systems on half a dozen dormant battleworlds. Jason blinked. Come again. She might be a walking command key, Voss explained. They encoded heirloom functions into their royalty. The idea was that only someone of a high line could reactivate the Empire's last vaults. Tarsi cut in. You'll confine her to medical bay and maintain guard rotation. No exceptions. If the Krask catch wind of this, they'll be on you within the week. They didn't wait a week. It started small. A comms relay in Sector J9 went dark. Then an unmanned mining outpost stopped transmitting. And then 2 days later, 3 ships dropped out of slip space, 20 clicks off the Peregrine's bow. No transponder codes. No warnings. Krask syndicate vessels. Armored, angular, ugly things, retrofit junk bristling with guns and stripped AI weaponry. Pirate ships, wearing the bones of old war fleets. The bridge lit up in red as alarms blared. Battle stations. Tran barked. Shields up. Get the girl to the secure chamber. Jason sprinted through the corridors with Syl in tow. She didn't ask questions, just ran. Silent and fast, her long limbs more coordinated than expected. The first salvo slammed into the Peregrine's shields, jolting the deck. The ship groaned like a wounded animal. Jason threw himself in front of Syl as the lights flickered and a ceiling panel burst in a rain of sparks. In the command center, Tran shouted. They're targeting life support and engine nodes. Not aiming to destroy, just disable. They want the girl alive, Voss muttered. The ship's AI, Yard Geo, chimed in. Enemy vessels deploying boarding pods. Intercept in 2 minutes. Suggestions. Tran snapped. Jason's voice crackled over comms. Let her help. Tran frowned. What? She just pulled a 10,000-year-old code out of her head and unlocked a security relic last week. Maybe she can do something again. Syl, standing beside him, seemed to understand. She reached into the satchel she kept with her, an old family relic wrapped in cloth, and pulled out a Shiravani psion crystal, pulsing faintly with dormant light. She looked up at Jason, then toward the ship systems, and spoke a single word in her native tongue. The ship responded. Not immediately, but Jason saw the lights flicker, shift. The hum of the engines changed pitch. Somewhere deep in the ship's core, something ancient stirred. What just happened? Tran asked. Argo's voice came through again, different now. Deeper. More articulate. Air Apex biometric detected. Priority override confirmed. Recalibrating defense arrays. Jason grinned. She just promoted the ship. The Peregrine's guns came alive with new precision. Modified drone killers and reactive flak patterns targeted incoming pods before they latched on. One Krask vessel veered hard and spun into debris after a burst of unrelenting point defense fire. Back on the bridge, Tran glanced at the tactical readout. We're punching above our weight. Rourke, what the hell did she do? She unlocked the "you really don't want to piss us off" protocol, he replied. But not everything could be solved by ancient codes. One Krask pod slipped through. A squad of armored raiders breached Deck 4, cutting down 2 engineers before they could seal the blast doors. Jason grabbed a pulse rifle and rushed toward the breach. Syl followed, to his protest, until they were pinned behind a bulkhead. She can't be here, he shouted. But she was already doing something, fingers dancing across her psion crystal. The drones from the Shiravani relic, the same ones they found hidden aboard, emerged like silver insects from their stasis pods, guided not by programming, but by her will. They descended on the Krask like wolves on meat. It was over in 60 seconds. In the aftermath, the ship limped into a debris field to hide. Damage was moderate, casualties minimal. But the questions were bigger now. Syl had revealed her power, not just lineage, but control over lost technologies, relics that humans barely understood. Jason sat with her again that night. She was exhausted, slumped against the wall, eyes half closed. He handed her another chocolate bar. We're going to run out of these real fast. She took it with reverence, but before eating, she broke it in half and gave the larger piece to him. Jason blinked. That's very royal of you. She smiled, just barely. You shared when you didn't have to. Jason felt something tighten in his chest. What's going to happen now? He asked. Syl didn't answer immediately. Then she whispered, the war isn't over. Jason looked out the porthole into the void. It never is. But this time, humanity had a stake. And a very small, very important passenger. The Peregrine drifted in the shadow of a dying star, cloaked behind a dense asteroid field in the outer rim of the Shiravani sector. The crew was tense. The unexpected attack by the Krask Syndicate had shaken everyone's confidence, especially the command staff. Jason Rourke stood near the ship's small arboretum, where faint greenery struggled to survive under artificial lights. Syl sat on a bench, her delicate fingers tracing patterns in the leaves of a synthetic fern. Despite her youth, she carried the weight of a lost empire on her shoulders, and the crew watched her with a mixture of suspicion, awe, and hope. "Jason," called Dr. Elijah Voss from the adjacent lab. "You might want to see this." Jason followed, curiosity pushing away the fatigue that pressed on his bones. Voss's terminal displayed complex data streams, genetic sequences interlaced with encrypted codes and biosentient AI algorithms. The Shiravani royal bloodline was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. "Look here," Voss said, pointing. "Syl's DNA isn't just royal lineage. It's an entire bio-coded interface, a genetic operating system tied directly to the Shiravani starships and tech." Jason raised an eyebrow. "You mean she's like a living key?" "Exactly. The Empire built itself around the High Line. Their monarchs were walking command centers, able to interface with and control ancient weapon systems, star fortresses, even AI guardians. And if the Krask get to her first," Voss's face grew grim, "they'll use her to reactivate weapons of mass destruction." Jason clenched his fists. "Not on my watch." Back in her quarters, Syl stared at the holographic map Voss had projected. It showed hidden caches of Shiravani relics scattered across nearby systems. "These are the vaults of Vareth," she said quietly, her voice tinged with reverence. "They contain weapons, knowledge, and the fate of my people." Jason sat beside her. "So what do we do? Let the Krask Syndicate collect these and restart the war?" Syl's eyes flashed steel. "No, we must find them first." The Peregrine's captain, Commander Halleck, summoned Jason and Tran to an emergency briefing. "The ship is vulnerable," Halleck said, her tone steely. "We cannot outrun the Krask forever. We need to strike preemptively." Tran nodded. "The relic vaults are ancient but heavily guarded. Syl's the only one who can guide us." Jason felt the weight of responsibility crushing him. "So we're going on a treasure hunt in a war zone?" Halleck smiled grimly. "With the fate of billions riding on it." Their first destination was a moon cloaked in perpetual storms, Vareth Prime. Satellite scans showed a sprawling underground complex, its entrances buried beneath churning clouds. As the landing craft pierced the thick atmosphere, the crew braced for hostile contact. The landscape was alien and wild, jagged rock formations slicing through dense fog. Syl's presence seemed to calm the team, an unspoken reassurance amid the unknown. Inside the vault, holographic runes flickered as Syl approached a sealed door. She placed her hand on an ornate panel, and the seals responded to her genetic signature. "Stand back," she warned. The door hissed open, revealing a chamber filled with shimmering crystals and dormant weapon cores, the heart of Shiravani power. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Krask mercenaries had tracked them. The corridors erupted into chaos. Jason and Tran coordinated their squads, fighting off a wave of mercenaries armed with pulse rifles and energy grenades. Syl moved with surprising agility, weaving through the fighting and activating the vault's defense turrets remotely. Jason covered her as she rushed to the vault's central console. "We need to extract the weapon cores before they fall into Krask hands," she said urgently. "Got it," Jason replied. "But how do we get out?" Syl's fingers flew over the interface. "I'm overriding the vault's lockdown, but it will only buy us minutes." The firefight reached a fever pitch as the team pushed toward their extraction point. Jason found himself face to face with a Krask commander, hulking, scarred, and ruthless. "Give us the girl, and we'll let you live," the commander sneered. Jason smiled coldly. "You'll have to kill me first." The battle was brutal. Jason's training and unpredictability allowed him to outmaneuver the enemy. Using improvised tactics, he lured the commander into a collapsing corridor, sealing him inside with a wall of reinforced rock. With seconds to spare, the Peregrine's shuttle touched down, and the team evacuated with the cores. Back aboard, Sil collapsed in exhaustion. Jason sat beside her, offering the last piece of his ration chocolate. "You saved us," he said quietly. She smiled faintly. "You saved me first." Later, in the command center, the captain looked at the recovered cores. "The weapons are ancient but still lethal. If the Krask rearm, no one will stand a chance," she said. Jason nodded. "Then we keep finding these vaults. We keep protecting Sil. Because if we don't, who will?" Sil looked out the viewport at the stars. "The war is far from over," she whispered. "But now," Jason said, clenching his jaw, "they'll know humanity isn't just another alien race to crush." The Peregrine shuddered as it emerged from slip space near the devastated world of Krell and Ar, a dead system once home to a crucial Shiravani armory. Jason Rourke stared at the viewport, the swirling clouds below hiding secrets buried in ash and ruin. Sil stood beside him, her silver-blue skin faintly illuminated by the red alert lights. She was no longer the scared girl in the ruins, but a beacon of ancient power and hope, the living key to an empire's legacy. Yet even with the armor of legacy, she remained vulnerable. "We have one chance to secure the final vault," Commander Halleck's voice crackled over the comms. "If the Krask reach it first, this war will end in flames for every star system in the sector." Jason clenched his jaw. "Then we don't let them." The Peregrine's crew ready for battle. Fighters scrambled from hangars, and turrets spun to life. Jason and Tram prepared their team for ground assault, the weight of the mission pressing down like gravity. The shuttle descended through the thick, toxic clouds of Krell and Ar's atmosphere. Lightning crackled, casting jagged shadows across the barren landscape. Sil remained quiet, clutching her psion crystal. Jason caught her gaze. "We've come this far. We'll make it out," he promised. Her eyes shimmered, a glimmer of hope cutting through the fatigue. "Together!" The vault entrance lay hidden beneath a collapsed observatory, its access sealed by a complex biometric lock keyed only to Sil's genetic code. As she placed her hand on the panel, the seals disengaged with a slow hiss. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the scent of lost time. Crystal corridors reflected soft blue light, and massive weapon platforms loomed in shadow. Suddenly, the Peregrine sensors flared. Multiple enemy dropships appeared above, Krask reinforcements closing fast. "We're trapped," Tran said grimly. Jason rallied the team. "Hold the vault. No one gets in." The battle began in a storm of fire and fury. Pulse cannons roared, energy shields flickered, and explosions shattered stone and crystal alike. Jason moved through the chaos with lethal precision, each decision razor-sharp. His unpredictability and human tenacity kept his team alive against overwhelming odds. Sil reached the vault's core console. Her fingers danced across ancient controls, initiating a reactivation sequence for the Shiravani defense grid. The entire complex hummed to life. Hidden turrets emerged from the walls, beam cannons charged, and energy barriers shimmered around the perimeter. The tides of battle shifted. Krask troops faltered, caught in the unexpected fury of long-dormant technology. Jason seized the moment, leading a counterattack that pushed the enemy back. But the Krask commander, scarred and relentless, had one final move. He deployed a bomb capable of collapsing the entire vault in minutes. Jason spotted the device and charged through a hailstorm of fire, sprinting against the countdown. Sil whispered an ancient invocation, her crystal glowing fiercely, lending Jason speed and clarity. He dove into the tunnel just as the bomb detonated behind him. In the aftermath, silence reigned. Jason lay battered but alive, the dust settling on a battlefield won but not without cost. Sil staggered to his side, tears mingling with dirt. "You saved the Empire," she said softly. "No," Jason replied, voice hoarse. "We saved each other." Back aboard the Peregrine, the crew celebrated their victory, but the war was far from over. Sil stood before the gathered officers. "The Shiravani Empire may be lost," she said, "but its spirit lives on. With humanity as our ally, we will rebuild." Jason smiled, feeling the weight of hope and resolve settle around them. As the ship jumped to warp, he looked at Sil, who now carried not only the blood of kings but the future of a galaxy. "We're just getting started," he said.